Hello friends, this is Umesh, and in this lesson we will going to learn Arduino C programming. Now many people gets the question, what is the difference between a normal C programming and Arduino C programming, right? If I want to differentiate these two things, then I would say Arduino programming is an hardware abstraction layer which is written on the top of C programming. Now this term looks very complex, hardware abstraction layer, HAL, but it means you use a programming language something like a C in order to program a particular hardware. Let's say for in this case it's an Arduino family of microcontrollers. I mean Arduino um, microcontroller ecosystem. So it's basically a C programming, but it is customized in a way to program a particular hardware, and that is called hardware abstraction layer. Now, if you're already comfortable with programming C or writing C program, then it will be very easy for you to understand Arduino C programming. Now, the thing is, there are a few functions and there are a few libraries that Arduino provides, which makes programming of a microcontroller very easy as compared to a normal C programming. So if you look at any programming language, the basic building block of the programming language is variables and data types, right? So these are very important things. Now what you see on my screen is a bare minimum code where you have set of function and loop function. Now when I say a function in my statement, it also been a part of C programming, right? Or Arduino C programming. You can use them interchangeably, it doesn't matter. I use in that way. So don't bother about what is the function for now, because we have to learn step by step in order to understand how to write our own Arduino programs, not to use a ready programs and modify them, right? So now the question is, what is a variable and what is a data types? Now if I want to tell you a variable, then I would say variable are nothing but a placeholder. So variable is like a box of a particular type, and type is nothing but a data type, right? There are several different types of data types in C available through which you can declare a variable, and one of such a very popular variable is a type integer. So if I take you to my code, then we will going to declare a very first variable that is a type integer, and I would like to give a name to my variable is my data. Now my data is a name of my variable, okay? And make sure every line in Arduino or C programming finish with a semicolon, okay? Now you see I have a box called my data, and this box is of type integer, okay? Now what kind of data we will store into integer type of variable and all we will have to see, okay? Then what I will do is I will store number 10 or value 10 into my data variable. That means what I did here is I created a variable called my data and I store number 10 into this my data variable. Okay, now I come back to the setup function where I'm going to write serial.begin. Now if you don't understand where does it come from, then don't worry, just stick to the code, because we want this function in order to use a serial monitor, okay, or serial capability on Arduino, and that is not a part of variable, but it is used for debug our Arduino C program, okay, called serial debug. And then what I will going to do is I will write serial.print, which will print the value of the variable, and the name of my variable is my data. So if I write serial.print my data, then it will print the value of my variable. If you want to see, then we will going to upload this code. So first go to tools, make sure you have Arduino Uno board selected, then make sure you have write COM port selected. Once it is done, then you can upload your program on your Arduino. Make sure you have connected Arduino Uno. Once the code is uploaded, then I will going to show you whenever I call this box my data, it will give me a value 10 that is stored into this 10, which is stored into my data variable. Okay, so let me open serial monitor, and you can see 10 has been printed because I stored value 10 into this variable. Now if I write 100, so if I store 100 number, a decimal value 100 into the same box, my data, okay, then you will see this will print a value 100 onto serial monitor because I changed the value into the variable. Now variable are very interesting element in your Arduino C programming or C programming because it acts like a memory, a little memory or storage in the life of your program. Okay, but the interesting characteristics is its value might change in the life of the program, right? So that is why they called it as a variable, because value will vary. Okay, now what I will do is, now the question is, we have stored 10, we have stored 100. Now the question comes, how much, how big is the value that we will going to store into variable my data? Okay, and that we have to understand. Okay, so we will going to write serial dot print ln. This time this print ln will print the new value. Okay, not new value, but the statement or the output in next line. New line means a next line. Okay, and what I will going to do is I will use an operator size of, which is a built-in Arduino or built-in C operator, and I will going to write the name of my variable, which is my box my data. Okay, so once this is done, then I will upload the code again and I will show you serial monitor so that you can see the output from my program. Okay, and you see 100 and after there is a 2, so 2 is nothing but the size of this variable integer. Now 2 means not a 2, it means 2 bytes. Okay, now what I will do is, to make this code more readable, I will write serial.print and then I will going to put one tab. Okay, and tab has to be inserted by putting / and then T. This will insert a tab so that you can have a little bit space between your value, okay, and your size of the variable. So you can see right now there is a tab between 100 and 2. So 100 is nothing but the value stored into your variable, and 2 is nothing but the size, 2 bytes. That means the size of your variable type integer is of 2 bytes. Now if I go back to my calculator, which you can see on my screen, a scientific calculator, I would say 2 raised to 2 bytes, that means a 16 bit. So 2 raised to 16 is 65,536. Now I divide this by 2 because there are two types of integer variables, unsigned and signed integer. I don't want to get into that for now, but just try to understand what I'm trying to say is, you can store up to 2768, means, let me do it once again, 2 raised to 16 is equal to 65,536 minus 1 is equal to 65,535, and I divide by 2, so this will be a 32,767. So I copy this and I paste this value here, and make sure you remove this decimal number. So because integer doesn't store the decimal places, right? So if I upload this program, okay, this is a maximum value that you will going to store in your program. Okay, and then you will going to see it can store 32,767. Now because if we write here 68, 32,768, then it will exceed the limit of the value that integer can store, right? So if I upload this program and try to show you what it's written back, then you will going to see something ugly, useless stuff, right? You see minus 32,768. That means the range of the variable is exceeded and you get a useless thing. So I hope you understand what I'm trying to say here. Integer is a 2 bytes of in the size of an integer data types is 2 bytes, and you can store the data up to 2 bytes. Now what I'm going to do is I will make it again 10, okay, just to have a reference. Now after understanding the integer, which is very important element here, we will going to look at a new data type, and the next data type that we have to learn is called character or char. You can call it anything you like. I used to call it as a char. So the char is the name itself represents that this data type store a character, an ASCII character. So if I store here ASCII character, let's say a letter A, okay, because A is nothing but an ASCII character. So if I store A here, make sure you write in a single quote, right? You don't have to put here double quote, because if you write in a double quote, it will understand it's as a string, but we don't have to do anything but string as of now. So if I make this my box, this data variable, which is I referred it as a box. So if I take my data variable and if I assign a type as a character, char, and I store A into this variable, then it will give me and A when I print this, when I upload this code, okay. And then when I show you serial monitor, you see it prints a character A, and it gives a size of this character variable character data type is 1 byte. So usually every character, okay, most of the characters are 8-bit, so 1 byte is nothing but 8-bit, and you can represent an ASCII character into 8-bit. That's why whenever you want to represent any character, then you have to use this character byte. There is another very interesting data type called byte. You can use byte as well. This byte is oftentimes used to store a value, 8-bit value, but it is very popular in Arduino when you want to store an hexadecimal number. So if I upload this code with giving the name of the variable my data as a byte, type byte to my data, it will still gives us the same, not the same, but it gives us the ASCII value of this character A. So if you look at this, 65 is an ASCII value of this character A. Now there is very funny stuff that Arduino supports. So if I going to write here 65, if I say 65 number, okay, or we can even write a hexadecimal, and if I remember the hexadecimal is 41 hopefully, and if I upload this code, I mean now we are storing this hexadecimal 41. Hexadecimal is represented by 0x and then the value 41. Then see what we get is again a 65. Now to make that readable, we can write here, instead of print, we can say serial.write, and now when we print this, okay, then perhaps we will going to get ASCII character equivalent to this 41 hexadecimal, right? So you can see right now on my serial monitor, it's a A that I have stored in the form of hexadecimal number. Now the funny part is this: if I can make this variable again type integer, and if I store 65, because 65 is a decimal number equivalent to A if you look at in your ASCII table, right? And if I upload this program again, then also I will going to get this this my data value to be A, but this time you see the size of the variable has changed from 1 byte to 2 bytes, because integer is a 2 byte data type. The size of the integer is 2 bytes, and that's why you get a 2 byte here. I hope you understand now the difference between integer and character. Now the next very important data type is a float. Now if I can change this with float, 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 this float is used to store a decimal number. Let's say if I store 3.14, which is a constant pi value, okay, and if I print this, if I upload this code, and if I see on my serial monitor, okay, it shows me an issue error because I have to change this right to print. So I will going to go and write print and now upload this code. Okay, and now you can see it will print 3.14 as it is, and the range or the size of the float variable or float type data type is 4 bytes, right? So if you have a big size of a data that you want to store into your box my data, and if it's more than two bytes, and if it's in a decimal number, right, then you have to use a float variable or float a data type, right? It has a value 4 bytes. And then another one, let's say if I show you, like if you replace this float with an integer again, if I try to make integer, so what I'm trying to do here is I am trying to store this value 3.14, which is a decimal number, not a decimal, it's like a decimal places after 3.14. And if I am trying to store with the integer type variable called my data, then let's see what happens. Now let me upload the program, and you will going to see the output from this. So what you see here, this is not the output that we expect, because we want this whole value to be printed 3.14, where it only prints 3, and it left over this 3.14, so 0.14 has been left because integer doesn't store this value after decimal places, right? And that is the problem, and that's why whenever you want to store in Arduino program, when you connect a sensor where you read the data from the temperature, and if your temperature is, let's say, 35.2 degrees centigrade, or something which requires a decimal number, decimal places and points, then you have to use a float instead of integer, right? And let's say if you have a long data, or if you have a big number that you want to store, let's say 100,000, okay, and if you try to store into this integer, you cannot store because the limit of this variable integer, it's out of the range of the variable because it's only 2 bytes. You need to use another variable data type called long, and long has a 4 byte range, so the size of the long data type will be 4 bytes. So if I upload, then my data can able to store this 100,000 value because it has a type long. So if I open serial monitor, you can see my data is now can able to store 100,000 value, and the long has a 4 bytes of the size of the long variable data type is 4 bytes. Now let's look at 4 bytes means how much. So if I go to my calculator, and if I say like so 2 raised to 32, then it will be, oh, it's too many, right? And if you do minus 1, 2 raised to 32 minus 1, and then you can divide by 2, and this is a number that you can store, right? But I don't know when you will go, but there's many places like accelerometer and many sensors which has a 16-bit value or something which you cannot able to store into integer variable or integer box, and then you need to define a variable with a type long. Okay, but that's a different story. Now let's go back to another very important data type that we have support in a C or Arduino C programming, called a string. Now if I take if I change the type of my variable, my data, to string, Now the name string itself represent you can store a number of characters. I mean, let's say if I say like binary updates, it's a continuous a string. It's a name of my website, and if I want to store the character, certainly doesn't help me to store this binary updates.com. So what I will do is, in a double quote, I will write binary updates.com. Okay, and now when I upload this code, then my data, this box that I have created a variable, can store this binary updates.com. If you can make a character, then it only can store the first initial byte, first initial character B. And if I open serial monitor, you can see it now can able to store entire string binary updates. So if you get into situation where you want to store a number of characters, there's another concept called arrays in C programming, but we will get into that bit later when the right time comes. Let's come back to the string. So string is like a combination of characters which makes a name, or a number of character can make a string, right? And you see the length of the string variable my data is not correct, right? It's not a 6 bytes, definitely it's more than that, because you cannot use size of operator on a string variable. Rather, what you can do is you can take my data, which is a name of my variable, and then you have a special function supports called length, L-E-N-G-T-H, length, and parenthesis. And if I upload this program, okay, and now we can get exactly what we want, right? So you can see right now binaryupdates.com, which is of 17 bytes. If you don't believe, then you can count 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13, this point 14 16 17. I think I have lost 1 2 3 4 5 6. Okay, whatever, you can count it, and I believe in this, it will give me a right thing, right? So this is how you will going to print the string. I mean, if you recall from the beginning that we started declaring this box called my data, and I have showed you how you can use the same box, and you can define this box a placeholder which can store the value of different types, and these different types are nothing but the data types. So you can use different values of data which you required in your Arduino C programming. Okay, I hope this video, this lesson will help you understand. If you want me to summarize, then we have seen a different C data types that includes an integer, which was 2 bytes. The size of the integer data type is 2 bytes. Then we have seen a character, char data type, which is a size of 1 byte. Then we have seen a byte, a data type, a variable. We have defined byte, which is again 1 byte of the size of the byte is 1 byte. And then we have seen and long, which is a 4 byte. The size of the long is 4 byte. And then we have seen float variable, which is again the size of 4 byte. Then we have seen a string. String is a combination of characters, so the number of characters you use, depending on that, it will define the size of the string variable. Okay, the string itself is a very big concept. We will going to see a lot of built-in function which are the normal C programming supports in order to use string, but that would have to seen in the next lesson of Arduino training series. So I hope you will find this video educational and entertaining. In the next lesson, we will going to learn about the control structure, if statement, and other decision making, so we can do a conditional operation and we can write a program which will make a little more sense than the program that we have written today. So thank you very much for watching this video, and see you in the next video. Bye bye.